All right, guys. So getting into the afternoon coverage here, we got the LA Clippers game going on right now. Fingers crossed. Seems like the props are going our way to start. Did want to call out some college basketball props. NHL wise, it doesn't seem like we are getting any like better bets out there right now. They're kind of all corrected as it sits right now. There are two that I want to call out college basketball wise that are just interesting to me. And so we got Grady Dick over 4.5 rebounds right now as it sits. We'll pull it up on DraftKings Sportsbook so you can see it. They have this line set at minus 135. If we were to pull it up on FanDuel Sportsbook, they would have it set at over minus 150. So on paper, it is looking like it's going to be a pretty good bet that we are getting. DraftKings is favoring the over, and also FanDuel is as well. Now, the only thing that worries me is that in 2 games against Texas, he only has a total of 6 rebounds. That's a big worry to me. So I find it very interesting that PrizePicks is actually setting this at 4.5. Now, he does average 4.8 rebounds per game, and so it could just simply be a situation in which they're saying he is due to get over against Texas. Could just be that. Does worry me a little bit. I just want to call this out as one of the better odd bets that we were getting on the day. And then we got Tiger here as well. Over 4.5 assists. If we pull it up on DraftKings Sportsbook, favored at minus 140 to get the over. And if we were to pull it up on FanDuel Sportsbook, we'd see that it's favored at minus 144 to get the over. So really on paper, this is going to be one of the better best bets that we were getting. As we saw with David Perron, sometimes even favorable odds are not going to go our way. There's still like a 46 to 41% chance that the other side hits, right? So, I mean, that's still pretty significant. So it's not a guarantee, but we do like to get the best value bets that we can out there on the day. In the long term, that's going to add up to be successful. So these are the 2 best college basketball bets that we're getting. Now we're going to get into some NBA bets. I'm pretty excited for kind of the fantasy score ones. So I'll get into that after we touch on just the normal props. So I was a little bit bummed out when the Giannis news hit. I wasn't able to get on Discord, and then also I kind of wanted to do a live stream. I was like prepared to go live to do that. To get the information out because PrizePicks had not adjusted yet. So I was getting my bets in for that. Did some stacks with the Bucks stuff because there was it seemed like 15 or so minutes until PrizePicks really adjusted for it. And I don't know if they adjusted enough for it. So we'll touch on that as well. But looking at it, guys, like not really getting that many strong kind of props per se. Like we can see the edge here. There's nothing that's really significant that also is good odds. Like Walker Kessler, we could do points and assists. Favor get over by 1.9. They're favoring it at minus 120 to get over. An okay bet, just not something that's like elite. And I do want to call it another one that I thought was pretty interesting here. And this is one of those ones in which you could potentially just do it on like DraftKings or something where we're just betting the over here. Okay, so the over is set at plus 100. He's projected to get 12.89. And so the interesting thing here is I believe, Bagley is expected to play. So we are still getting this projection with Bagley expected to play. The question is how many minutes will Jalen Duren get? Because Jalen Duren played last game against Charlotte, a favorable game, played 21 minutes. So if we know that Wiseman is going to be the leading minute getter between really him and Duren, then Wiseman will be an interesting prop here. Okay. And so I don't know what you want to do with it. They obviously do like Wiseman there. He's been crushing lately. To me, it's probably just a stay away. But if we wanted to bet it, I think we'd bet the over on a sports book because that's where we're getting the best value then. And then over odds where PrizePicks and, when the sportsbook might have been different. The biggest one that we're getting here is going to be Walker Kessler over points, rebounds, and assists. We can see he's projected to get over that by a pretty healthy margin there as well. I find that extremely interesting. What's his minutes? Projected to get 30 minutes. I mean, wow, that's fascinating. Actually, this is a pretty good prop line. So not only are we getting a full point here, but the sportsbook are also suggesting that at 25.5, the over is still going to be the way to go. So this is something that I hope is still there by the end of the video. And we can see, based off his projected minutes in this matchup, he should be able to get over as well. Extremely interesting prop here. Huge edge. So Walker Kessler, I'm actually writing that down so I remember to get back to it. Very solid edge there. But that, I think, is where our big edges are going to be done. Now, DeMar DeRozan, we can see over points is being favored. That's going to come up huge later on in this video. And then any underbets, we're still seeing like Wiseman over we would want to make these bets on the sportsbook because that's where we're getting the best odds. Like we don't want to chase unfavorable odds on PrizePicks. Like that's just not a smart move. Now it can work out in short term, but in long term, it's not going to be something that's successful. I would say more times than not, Vegas is going to be more right? So I do want to get into the fantasy ones because these are going to be super interesting. And I want to get into it by touching on some underdog bets that we have available. So let's start with PJ Washington. I got some questions asking, hey, what are we doing with PJ Washington pretty much like he's been someone that really we've used the last like 5 times. And that's because for some reason, they haven't been adjusting for his fantasy score without Mason Plumlee. It's just strange. Like since Mason Plumlee has been traded, we have seen PJ Washington not only get more minutes, knock on wood, because against Detroit he didn't, but be more productive with those minutes as well. Be extremely consistent as a fantasy producer. Let's just look at these last few games. 36, 30, 22, not the best there. 36, 46, 32, 35, 43, all since the trade deadline. And so that's way over his fantasy score here. So if we look at his per 36 numbers with both LaMelo Ball and Mason Plumlee off the court, he does average about 36 fantasy points per 36. So the interesting thing here is that if you wanted to bet him, you would bet him over on Underdog where he's 31.35, because on PrizePicks it's at 32.5. So very interesting there. That could be a little bit of an edge there. To me, it more or less seems like a stay away. He's due for a bad game, okay? The next one I want to call out is going to be kind of just the Orlando Magic players for their fantasy point props. So we got Banchero set at 33.5, and we got Wagner set at 28. Okay, we go ahead and pull both of those up here on Underdog as well. His fantasy score, Wagner's on Underdog is set at 27, and Banchero's is set at 32. So we're getting about a 1 point decrease on Underdog. So if you guys like these two bets, you could bet them on Underdog, bet the over. Now, to me, the best one is going to be Wagner over fantasy points. And I think if we sort by edge, I think he's one of the better ones that we're getting. Yeah, so right now, at 28 for PrizePicks line, he's still favored to get over that by about 2.5. So about 3.5 on Underdog is he favored to get over. Now, is this going to hit every single time? Definitely not. And I do want to point out that Wendell Carter is back. Okay, he's going to play this game. I haven't seen anything in terms of a minutes restriction. He is expected to start, though. And so, really, Wagner has been extremely consistent these last 3 games. Why? It literally could just be simply the fact that Carter has been out. So if Carter was out, maybe we wouldn't be getting this great prop line as well. But it is an interesting one. It is one that kind of stood out. And for what it's worth, guys, these numbers are not adjusted for per 36 numbers. This is just solely based off of averages. So it's not like with Carter being active or inactive, it wouldn't really change the projection too much. It's just going off of raw averages. Then let's see Banchero here. Not a big edge, and I'm probably just staying away from it. So it does seem like, 32 is probably the correct line, but it's definitely a push. Like we're just not chasing it at all there. I don't think that'd be the smart move. If you wanted to bet it, you would bet on Underdog though. And then continuing on, we got another 2 interesting ones. Actually, I just want to call this one out. So Bam is very interesting to me because we have seen now with Kevin Love off the court or on the court, Bam has seen a decrease in usage of about 2.1% and averages about 8.4 less points per 36. Now, the matchup against Orlando is definitely intriguing. I expect him to have a good game. But let's see, is this game a blowout potential at all? It's not. Okay, so never mind there. But it wouldn't be shocking to see him hit the under here. It's not something I'm really betting against, but it is a trend that I've seen. Maybe if you're trying to do some sort of game stack, you could bet the under here, and then maybe you're favoring another big 4. Maybe Jimmy Butler you're favoring a little bit more than. But I just want to call that out. I found that interesting. So I wanted to call out these 2. So DeMar DeRozan, and this is huge. I'll start with this. We also got Zach LaVine at 39.5. He's going to be 1 point lower. I guess I'll start with LaVine. He's going to be 1 point lower on Underdog at 38. Now, his projection is pretty much right, so we're probably not chasing that one. DeMar DeRozan, however, 38.5 on PrizePicks. We pull him up on Underdog. We can see this is at 35.85 for his fantasy points. That is a big difference. That is a huge difference. And I know it's not exactly comparing apples to apples here, but let's use Zach Collins as an example last night. Now, we know he didn't get to his prop line simply because he got ejected. Like literally, if he gets 1 more minute, he probably hits his over. But we can see how significant literally 1 point in a fantasy point prop line can change really your whole night. And so that's a big edge that we're getting. And so I'm curious to see what his fantasy score is here. So DeMar, already favored to get over slightly on PrizePicks, but he's projected to get 39 fantasy points. So on Underdog, we're getting about a 3-point edge there. And let's just see, have these 2 teams met? Then we'll also check if it's going to be a blowout as well. So DeMar over the last 4 games has been a little bit more consistent as well. Obviously, we like that. Let's see. Houston, here we go. High scoring game, 41 points. That might have been an overtime game, but he crushed it against them. Crushed it. And so let's check the over and under of that one. 8 points. We can start to think about maybe potential blowouts, but it shouldn't be too bad. 224 over and under. That seems low to me. But either way, like, we can see that this is a very solid line that we are getting here. So I really don't mind betting higher there for DeMar. And for what it's worth, I think we could do Wagner there. But this is kind of a clear cut. Even if it misses, like, we know, like, on paper, that this is kind of the correct bet that we would be making. Just given the game, given what he did against them last time, and given his projection, like, it all kind of favors DeMar. And we're looking at the props, like the points. The points are suggesting that he should be over his projected points as well. If that happens, obviously he's going to be more likely to get over his fantasy points as well. So just a very good line that we were getting there. Even if it doesn't hit, like, I think we'd be fine. I think we could stomach it missing, because it's not like we're forcing it. They're kind of forcing us to bet it there on Underdog. So Drew Holiday's prop here is a little bit lower on Underdog. This actually got slightly bumped. So we're not even touching that. Let's see Chris's. Chris is 37.75 here. On PrizePicks, it's at 38. So if you wanted to bet the over on him, you'd bet it here. If you wanted to bet the under, you'd bet it on PrizePicks. And I'm not exactly sure what we should be doing with Chris, to be honest with you. Like, looking at the prop board, it's actually one of the worst bets we can make. But this is just going off of raw averages here. It's not changing because Giannis is out. Obviously, his per 36 numbers with Giannis off the court are crazy. And so let's just look at that. Chris Middleton with Giannis off the court does average 46 fantasy points per 36. The issue with that is we can't project him to get anything more than that. His game log suggests that he is not getting an increase in minutes probably until playoffs. Okay, it doesn't really make sense for them to give an increase in minutes until playoffs. Now, Drew Holiday also does average around 46 fantasy points per 36, but Brook Lopez averages 40 points per 36 as well. So we're not seeing a prop difference for Brook Lopez as compared to what is available. But to me, at 33.5, this still seems too low. Now, I want to point out that he's another one of those players that it kind of wouldn't be shocking to see him have a poor night. He has been going off lately, and he's been very consistent. Now, it's NBA. Players are due to have bad games. That is just going to happen, okay? That's true with anything in life, right? Like, be consistently this good. Either he's stepping up into a much better player. We know that's not true. Okay, it's just he's been rain hot. Part of that's due to Giannis being out, but Giannis is out again. Averages 40 points per 36. Has the most minutes with Giannis off the court as well. Maybe gets some Kevon Looney defense as well. That's going to be encouraging. Like, more times than not in this matchup, he's going to get the over. And so my issue here is that I already bet him at 31.5. So I don't have the need to bet him at 33.5. I would still say this is a good number. And then the last one I want to call out is going to be Chris Paul. This is so crazy as well. So on PrizePicks, it's at 35.5 for his fantasy score. And if we just look at his per 36 numbers with Mikal Bridges off the court, and we can't do KD. We could do Landry Shaman as well, but KD hasn't played that much with them, right? But Chris Paul does average around 43 fantasy points per 36 with Mikal Bridges off the court. So I'm more or less expecting the over here, and so are the odds on Underdog. Like, they're suggesting it should be too higher. So that's a big difference there. And I don't think there's a projection for Chris Paul just yet for fantasy score. But if we pull up his game log, we can kind of see here that just inconsistent. So I don't really do a good job betting Chris Paul. I just don't. And I think it's just because he's inconsistent. If you guys feel like you are comfortable betting Chris Paul either way you can, this could easily be a situation in which we are doing one of two things. We'd bet the over on PrizePicks, and then on Underdog, we'd bet the under. You could also do that with DeMar DeRozan on both slates as well. So, like, we could literally do this. We could game the game. Bet over because that's about a 3-point difference, and we could bet lower because that's about a 2-point difference than what PrizePicks is giving us. And so someone called out, and I think I'm going to try to make this update this weekend, is someone called out, hey, can you give us the sportsbooks odds on what their projected fantasy points are? And I'm like, no, that's not like a thing. But what I could do, and I think I will do this, is that we do have all this data for like projected points and rebounds and stuff. I think I'm going to pull the averages together for those, categories there and pull together an average for their fantasy score. And then we could kind of combine that all together to get a fantasy projection. Okay, so it's not going to be perfect because if we were to do that with points, rebounds, and assists, like as a separate data point, it doesn't always add up to what their actual points, rebounds, and assists are. So just want to call that out. But I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be good. And so I do also want to call out like this. We got a very interesting one with Jalen Williams. And I feel like this would be a question that a lot of people have. I want to bet this. I do. The issue is that the Thunder are finally healthy. So if we sort by it, like finally healthy, like they have 2 players out, whatever. Alexei's back. Okay, he's going to play. And we don't know how many minutes he's going to get. Probably going to be restricted. Hasn't played since 12/27. Okay, so yeah, we have no idea what his minutes are going to look like. So if he doesn't play that many minutes, I'm looking at the starting lineup here, not expected to start. So if he doesn't play that many minutes, then this prop line for Jalen Williams would be a little bit too low. He has been someone that has been going off lately, but it's a fishy line. Like it should be higher in theory, just given how well he's played lately. Now I know he gets a matchup with the Pels, and a matchup with the Pels that one game he crushed against them, and then the other 2 games was just terrible against. So yes, he's stepping up into like a bigger role lately, it seems like, and the minutes have been there. It seems too low, but I also get why it is this low, because they're healthy. And so he has been the only one that we have gotten consistent minutes from, but I just wanted to call that out because it was very interesting to me, and we can see basically a push right now as well, given the matchup. So just an interesting line there, I thought. And so to recap, let's see, edge-wise, fantasy point-wise, maybe Chris Middleton under. I'd probably just staying away from that. Not going crazy with the unders today. Over-wise, Sengun's popping up again. Kelly Olynyk still popping up. John Collins still popping up. Those are all fine bets. Not touching Bam. I like Wagner. If we're betting Wagner, though, we're going to bet him on underdog, where we already get DeMar as a very good bet. Chris Paul, I don't know if I want to bet this. Like I said, he's so hit or miss, and I just never trust him. So probably just taking that one off. But we could do Wagner, where we are getting a full point bump here, because on PrizePicks it's at 28. So we could do a bet like this. I'd be perfectly fine with that. And let's see, college basketball-wise, are we getting Tiger as well? We're not. So we're not getting that prop there on underdog, which tells us, and I hope it's still here, and it is, that tells us that this bet is a pretty strong bet. Obviously, minus 140, right? Those are good odds. We'll take those odds. So just to recap, we are getting this strong points, rebounds, and assists prop here. The Sportsbook have it set at a full point higher, and they're also favoring the over here. Obviously, Walker Kessler gets a great matchup. Data would suggest, and this is a very kind of fun game as well, high scoring game as well, would suggest that we should be betting the over for Chris Paul. He's just so inconsistent. I feel like I can never get him right, but looking at his per 36 numbers, looking at how underdog has it set, probably should be betting the over here as well. And then I don't know what to do with James Wiseman. I'm actually kind of curious. Put in the comment section below kind of what are your thoughts on James Wiseman, because they traded for him for a reason. They like him. They've been getting him run. Gets like 3 straight easy matchups, 4 straight easy matchup in a row now. You should be able to take advantage of that. And guys, for what it's worth, if you are worried about DeMar, you could bet the under here. Like it's a big edge. Either way, it's really up to you guys to decide how you like that one. Now, personally, I still feel like this number is too low for Brook. It just seems too low. Like more times than not, he's going to get the over. And just calling out that game, it is a higher scoring game still, and it's still expected to be close. And then I don't know, you guys tell me as well here, what do we do with Jalen Williams? Like I kind of want to continue to ride the hot hand per se. It does feel a little bit risky. But that is all for the afternoon video. I still like Kelly Olynyk as well, by the way, but I do think we have better bets out there today. So we'll see. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let's have a good slate. I'm curious to see if I didn't jinx the Clippers game there and New York game, because they were riding hot. So we'll see here. All right. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.